Now I'd like to introduce Shavon. Shavon is a nationally recognized career and mentorship expert specializing in the advancement of women in typically male-dominated fields. Having said that, Shavon's presentation today has much insight to offer both males and females. Shavon began her career in 2004 in the financial services industry and quickly became her firm's top producing representative in Southern California. She attributes much of her early success to working hard, being able to handle rejection, and having supportive, tough-minded, business-focused mentorship. But for Shavon, this success came with a price. Her health and happiness began to be compromised. She knew she needed to take more control of her own career, so she began to search for a female mentor who would better understand her situation. That task proved to be exceedingly difficult. Shavon then sought out and interviewed dozens of Fortune 1000 executive women to find out how they were able to navigate the corporate landscape, have a family, and maintain their happiness. What she learned became the foundation for women evolution. And I'd like to say also, Shavon is actually broadcasting to us this morning from Kauai in Hawaii. So it is very early for her. It is only 5 o'clock in the morning. So I would like to thank her so much for that. And Shavon, good morning.
Good morning. It is 5 a.m. and pouring rain, as usual in the North Shore of Kauai, if anybody is aware of that. I guess it is the one of the rainiest places in the world. And so I had this beautiful vision that I would be hosting this webinar today with you from our beautiful porch outside. But because it's pouring rain and I wanted to make sure the sound quality was good and that I didn't wake up our 21-month-old little girl, I am broadcasting from a beautiful pantry closet.
The glamour of Hawaii.
It's a glamorous life. It absolutely is. So I thought I would just share that with you all today. No, I'm a live person here at 5 a.m. in Kauai. So thank you so much for joining me today. Shall we get this going?
Yes, it's all yours, Shavon.
Okay, great. So I'm going to play the slide from the get-go. So thanks so much for joining me today. Today we're going to be talking about how can we own our career, 3 ways to advance. The first thing I want to bring up is a question. Which brain do you believe represents a brain at rest? Do you think it's brain 1 or is it brain 2? There's going to be a poll, and hopefully, Karen, you can launch that for me, but I'd love your feedback right now in taking this poll. Do you believe brain 1 represents a brain at rest, or is it brain 2?
And the poll is going now, Shavon, so it's fine.
Great.
Yep, they're answering.
All right, we've got about 50-50 so far. What else? That's a lot of people have already answered the question. All right, that's pretty good. 53% say it's brain 1, 47% brain 2. All right, well, let's just say it's actually a trick question. Brain 1 is a woman's brain at rest, and brain 2 is... Now I know why I'm so exhausted all the time, right? Prior to the early 1990s, all brains were presumed to be the same. However, using MRI technology that was introduced in the late 80s, neurobiologists were able to demonstrate and track more than 100 biological differences between the male and female brain. And one area where the differences between men and women are clearly defined are in that of leadership. One of the very first things that were noticed was the inner CEO of the brain, or the prefrontal cortex. This area in women is much more active than in men. And this is the area of the brain that governs things like judgment, forethought, organization, planning, empathy, impulse control, and learning from your mistakes. These are the very qualities needed to successfully manage a company, lead a nation, mediate crisis, and get people working towards a common goal. The companies that have figured this out are also reaping the financial benefits. Companies with the greatest gender diversity see 2 times more revenue and 34% profit, higher profits on average. There couldn't be a greater business case. And this study, mind you, from the UC Davis Graduate School of Management has been going on for 12 years. And the results continue to be proved year after year. And so if you're interested in any of this raw data from the study, you can go to the UC Davis Graduate School of Management website, and they provide it for everyone so that you can leverage this research for yourself. It's fascinating. However, 12 years have gone by, and women still represent less than 22% of senior management positions globally. We make 23% less than men, and at our current pace, it's going to take 117 years before we reach parity. You know, I ask myself, how is it humanly possible that with all of this amazing research and all of this amazing conversation that we've been having year after year about the benefits of women in leadership positions, how have we still not seen any change? Now, the very first time I heard these numbers was in 2011, and I have been fascinated with them ever since. Because, see, I was struggling in my career. I started off in the financial planning industry, and right out of college, and I saw a lot of early success. I was being groomed for management within the first 2 years of being in my career, and so I was not only working with clients throughout the day, but I was recruiting and hiring, training, and mentoring in the morning. And then the financial industry is so difficult, and there's an over 95% fail rate in the first year as well, that you really have to build a strong community amongst all the employees. So you would have to take everybody out at night to make sure that they really stayed connected to the support structure, which was a wonderful thing. I knew I had so much fun my first couple of years, but after 2 years, working over 12-hour days, working weekends, and then going out every night to stay connected with the community, I was physically and emotionally exhausted, and it started to really take its toll. And I'm not joking when I say I was getting sick almost every single month. I mean, I joke that the doctor, I wouldn't even have to go in anymore. I'd be like, just send my antibiotics to the to the pharmacy, and I'll just go pick it up. I got bronchitis again, and all the other things that were going on. I started gaining weight, and I just started realizing that I was unhappy. I was going to, I knew I was going to get married. I was dating somebody that I was really serious about. I knew that was going to happen. I definitely, we wanted to have children. And so in my mind, I'm starting to have this conversation of, how is this going to ever be humanly possible? How can I maintain my career path and have any sort of balance in any way, shape, or form? And, I had been given a mentor, a male mentor, from day one. That was the beautiful part about this career path. You get hired, and they hand you a mentor. And I know, hands down, it is 100% the reason why I was able to navigate my career path in the first few years as quickly as I did. But in this moment, at this particular moment where I'm having crazy thoughts and I have no idea how I can keep up at this pace, I knew I needed to find a woman. But I'm in the financial planning industry, and I am like the only woman in the company at this level specifically. And, you really can't be what you can't see. And I knew in this moment I really needed to find a woman. I needed to find a woman who had been there before, who had had children, and who could show me how it was possible. And so again, I'm in my mid-20s at this time, and I had built a lot of connections, but I couldn't find any woman who had made it as far as I did and had children. It was really disappointing, and I was finding that my other friends in different career paths were coming up against the same roadblock. They're like, yeah, I want a mentor. I want to find somebody, and I don't know how it's possible. And then, so instead of being able to find a, single person to mentor me as a woman, I leveraged actually a radio show program that I had on ESPN for 3 years. I was the host of a program called The CEO Show, and I had this really unique opportunity to get in front of some of the top executives in the country, many being Fortune 1000 executive women. And you can see here on the slide me interviewing, the former president of Diane von Furstenberg. So if any, I know maybe the men on the line may not know who DVF is, but I know any woman on there, this woman was, incredible to be able to have access to on the show. And what I would do is I would ask every single individual, every single one of these people, how did you make it? How are you able to navigate the path and maintain any sort of balance? And I sat back and I listened for 3 years. And what I discovered over and over and over again was that although their stories were very different, they all had something in common. They each can specifically remember these moments in their career where they learned a critical skill. And it was when these skills were learned that they were able to go from one level in their career to the next. And these skills that they learned, they were the exact same for every single person I interviewed. I am not joking when I say that it was this consistent, repetitive responses that I was getting of how they got from one level to the next. I mean, I literally couldn't believe it. I'm like, there's no way she just said pretty much the same thing in her unique, with her unique background and her unique industry, but it was really all, at the end of the day, the same, what I was able to distinguish, 6 critical leadership skills that all focused around this idea of owning a certain aspect of your career. And it didn't matter if the woman was an engineer or was in marketing, or the woman was in retail or aerospace or technology. It was consistent answers over and over again. So it was at this moment that I knew that I had to make what I just learned available to all men and women as quickly as possible. It became very clear that this was my mission, to communicate what I had just learned to the world. And, that's really where I started digging into significant amounts of research, in the leadership and development space. I quit the day job, and, Women Evolution was born. And, what I was able to feel in my gut was that because there are so few female leaders as role models in most industries, all of us men and women, we don't really know what really great, strong female leadership looks and sounds like. There are a lot of women who have had to make it by really, showing, acting in very masculine leadership traits, you can probably say. And so, a lot of people are like, well, she's been very aggressive, and, maybe a very less savory word, starts with the letter B. There are other things that, people say about some of these very aggressive women who have had to trailblaze their way through to the top and join this, boys club. But then what I discovered in these interviews was that there were these incredible women who I had never really heard of. The media isn't showcasing them. And as I'm talking to all of these emerging female women and men who are trying to navigate the path, they have very strong feelings about what female leaders look and sound like. You know, if they've had one female leader, that really shapes their conversation around what female leadership looks and sound like. And, you know, a lot of times their thought and their beliefs weren't very positive. And so I'm like, this really isn't helping us here. And I knew that that I needed to find a way to really showcase the stories of these women who are leading from what seems to be a very natural leadership capability, and provide a platform that people can learn from them today and hear their stories and see what they look like, and, you know, learn from how they were able to navigate it on a much larger scale. And I believe that it is equally as important for men to see this as well, because that's how we're going to come together, is when men and women work in partnership with this. And so this is when I remembered the power of mentorship. You know, when talking to all of these women, I would always ask, you know, does it take a 25-year career to learn these skills, these 6 critical skills that I was able to discover was in common amongst all of these individuals? You know, does it take a 25-year career and experience to learn these skills? Or could you teach them? Are they teachable? And what I heard unanimously, they all agreed these skills were 100% teachable. So I asked one of the Fortune 1000 executive women that I interviewed, I said, would you be willing to teach one of these 6 critical leadership skills to another woman who's trying to navigate the path today, and see if she's able to translate, you know, your experience and these skills into her everyday life, and what happens when she does? So it was this whole hypothesis around, you know, can you teach leadership skills? Can you do it virtually? These women were not in the same state. So they're communicating 1 hour a month, once a month for 6 months via Skype. And I'm filming all of these sessions, and I'm watching in the background going, I cannot believe how much transformation is taking place in 1 hour in the very first month. And so we turned not only this conversation, this relationship, you know, from just a personal one-to-one. What I did is I took that conversation and I transformed it into a documentary. A documentary that I shot in 2013, and what would ultimately become the foundation of our online mentoring program at Women Evolution. So this is where you watch over 25 lessons from, you know, a Fortune 1000 executive female, and you get to see what leadership looks and sounds like from someone who's been there before, and then you get to see someone who's trying to navigate the path, what happens when she does. And then there's interactive curriculum that's attached to the program, so you can assess yourself and you can see different scenarios that you may be faced with, you know, because these are real people. These are not vignettes of actors acting out situations that you may be, you know, in front of. You know, that was something with online learning that I personally never really enjoyed. You know, I could just never really see myself in those positions. So to show it being real people, you know, we really had to use kind of our workbook and interactive curriculum to spread out, you know, other scenarios that people may be faced with, because these are real women, and I wasn't going to make up any stories. So I'm excited to be here with you today, and because I'm going to share with you how the mentee in our program, how she was able to finally build the confidence that she needed to own her career. And I'm going to share with you 3 lessons on how you can own your career, and 3 ways that you can take this advice and be able to, you know, really understand and recognize how much more control you have over your career than you think. And I want, you know, I'm going to be asking you questions throughout this presentation today, so I'd really love for you to utilize the chat function, because you're, as you know, this is all about learning from each other. That's what this entire process is about. So all of you have so much that I can learn from, and so I'd love for you to type messages in and chat with me live. But I'd love to first to introduce you to just tell you a little bit about the mentor that I will be referencing throughout the day. So I'd like you to meet our mentor, Marina. So Marina Bogard, she is Senior VP of Global Strategic Accounts at International Game Technology. I'm not sure if any of you have heard of IGT before, but if you've ever stepped foot on a casino floor, they are in charge of almost every slot machine that you see. The Wheel of Fortune, the Sex and the City, all the, random ones that you find, there's a tiny little logo on all of them saying IGT. They are the world's largest gaming technology company. The CEO is a female, and so are 7 other on the executive team. And as you can imagine, this industry is heavily dominated by men. And Marina is a powerhouse, and I was floored and so humbled when she agreed to go through this journey with me when it was nothing more than an idea in my head. I don't even think I had a website at the time, but she believed so much in our idea that she was able to not only devote her time, but she funded the documentary as well. So I am forever grateful to Marina, and she is the ultimate mentor. And so she taught these 6 critical leadership skills to an emerging female leader, Jennifer Miller, who is at a Fortune 100 global technology company. And Jennifer was struggling herself. She never felt like she fit in with the company culture in this tech company. She felt like everyone she worked with was extremely aggressive. She didn't have anything in common with them, as well as that's what she thought. And at one point in her career, she ends up reaching out to try and find a female mentor within her company, and she's told that she's not at a high enough pay grade yet. She really was at a turning point in her career when she felt like she knew what she wanted, but she didn't know how to get there. And she started researching, she didn't let that situation hold her back about, not getting support from her company. So she started to look for support outside of her company. And at this time, we were doing a nationwide search at Women Evolution to find who the mentee was going to be featured in this documentary. And she applied and ultimately won. The first lesson that we're going to talk about today on how you can own your career is how you own your purpose, deciding what you want and why. This, we believe, is that we will be happier and more fulfilled when our life and our work aligns with our values. So assessing our values can make decisions easier. It also ensures that we're being true to who we are, regardless of the circumstance. Our values are also not static, and they change over time as we grow. So we have to constantly check in with ourselves to really understand what are our core values, and are we spending a majority of our time in the workplace working on projects that are in alignment with our core values. And I don't know about all of you, but I have an idea of what my values are, but I've never really done the work behind, yes, these are my 5 core values, and so what I want to do with you today, and this is a part of our online mentoring program, but because you're here with me today, I want to go through an exercise with you right now, live here during this webinar. And so if you can go over to the handouts section in your chat, in the sidebar, and you can download and access the Women Evolution Values exercise. So I want you to do this right now because I'm going to ask you to tell me what your values are. So I'll give you a minute to navigate over to the handout section, download that PDF. It's interactive, so you do not need to print it. Right on your screen, you're going to be able to pop up something that looks like this, okay? And what I want us to do is take a moment to assess your values. so that we can see and start this conversation of, are we in alignment with the work that we do every day with our values? So I'm going to stay quiet for a second. And what I want you to do is, step one is going to be a list of a lot of potential values that you may have. And I want you to check the checkbox on every single word that resonates with you. I don't want you to just pick 2 or 3. I don't care how many you check. I want you to just go through and start clicking. And some of these are going to possibly seem repetitive. So pick the word that resonates better with you. You know, balance and flexibility may be 2 very similar words, you know, to you, but they can mean different things, you know, depending on your career path. If those are one of your values, like balance is a value of mine, that's the box you should check. You know, but don't worry about it. I'm going to check them all right now. Just go through each line. You know, is abundance a value for you? Is being challenged a value? Is family a personal value of yours? And people always ask me, okay, am I doing my professional values or am I doing my personal values? There are no 2 sets of values. You are given 1 set of values for your personal and your professional career. And what we've discovered, and if you start, you know, I'd love for you, you know, if you're completing this exercise, to go into the chat function and start telling me what are some of the words that are coming up for you. What are some of the core values that resonate with you right now? And I'll share those with the group. So you can type your messages, you know, at any time here, and I can, you know, tell them to other people. So, you know, is mindfulness a core value for you? Success, being unique, is uniqueness a value for you? I know for me, and I've checked them for you here, you can see mine on the screen. You know, for me, my values are balance, happiness, innovation, leadership, and thoughtfulness. You know, those things, when I see those words, I realize that everything I do every day, sometimes it seems like I have to check in with myself and ask myself, do I feel happy in what I'm doing? You know, is it innovative? Am I being really thoughtful of other people and how what I'm doing can impact them? You know, and am I able to continue, you know, doing these things and still make my family, my, you know, growing family, you know, a priority at the same time? Like, am I able to satisfy all of these core pieces in what I do? And some days are better than others, and some days I have to, you know, reevaluate and say, I'm feeling really out of whack. I have been focusing way too much on innovation and leadership, and I stopped taking care of myself. And so I have to remember that, you know, my happiness is very much tied to, you know, taking care of that piece of me. So, and then vice versa, you know, if you, you know, when you spend so much time taking care of yourself and you start getting that, like, that anxiety part of, you know, I haven't really been focusing on my career path, or maybe I've taken a little bit too much time off, you know, and it's like, okay, I need to get back into, you know, getting out there and impacting more organizations. So if you have any of your core values that you'd love to share with the group, you know, I'd love to hear from you there. So step 1 is determining your core values. And step 2 is right at the bottom. There is a place for you to write out what your top 5 are. So right now, I just want you to make a note of what are your top 5 values that pop up for you. So if there are some that are repetitive, and just type them into this PDF. You can see right away, you know, narrow it down right in front of your eyes. So when Jennifer did this assessment, what she recognized was that she was currently spending about 50% of her time working on projects that were outside of in alignment with her values. So that means 50% of the time she's working on things that aren't making her happy. I mean, I'm not saying that you spend 100% of your time doing things that make you happy. You know, there are parts of my career path, whether when I was in corporate or in entrepreneurship that I'm in right now, that, you know, aren't pretty, and they're frustrating and they're annoying. So there's always going to be, you know, 10, 20% of what you do that isn't going to be in alignment. But it should be a goal for us to really look at trying to spend about 80% of our time in projects and things in our life that really make us happy. And if you're like Jennifer and you're thinking, I'm probably spending maybe half of my time, you know, no wonder, you know, we're not really feeling connected to our work as much, or that we really want to take up. And what we've discovered in our research is that it is critical, especially for women, that we are passionate about our career path and what we do every day. Because to be honest, it's not worth it. You know, it's equally as important for men and women. And I believe Sheryl Sandberg over at Lean In says this, but it's a non-negotiable for women. And so if we are working outside of alignment of our career path, of our core values, then we're really going to start impacting our happiness in the workplace. And so these 5 values that you've just discovered are now going to be your guiding light when it comes to projects you focus your energy on a daily basis. And so I urge you all, once you leave here today, to take the next step. And that next step is to, you know, dive deeper into, now that you know your core values, you know, put them on a whiteboard, I don't know, add them on your desktop, print this piece of paper and have it sitting on your desk, you know, put them in your phone in the note section like I like to do, and do an assessment of what percentage of your time are you truly working on your values are. And make sure you check in with yourself every several months. You know, if not just once a year, I like to do it in January, you know, it's a new year, and see, you know, have my values changed at all? You know, because they're allowed to change. They're not static forever. So if you want to make some changes, feel free as your life evolves to check in with yourself. And now you have the tool to be able to do that.
Shavon, it's Karen. I know you asked people to chat in. They actually put some comments into the question section for you.
Ah, I'm like, well, I'm not seeing anybody. I was a little sad, to be honest with you.
Yeah, no, they're in the question section.
There we go. Okay, so how can I, oh, here we go. Oh, this is so great. Oh, this makes me so much happier. Okay, here we go. So we've got, you know, some people are saying success, autonomy, simplicity, mindfulness, calmness, compassion, family, intelligence. You know, someone asked the question, how can I select my core values? If you're meaning how the PDF works, I mean, you just click it with your link. That the PDF is interactive, so you can just move your mouse over to the boxes and just check the boxes, and it'll pop up like it shows on my screen right now with the black check mark. And check as many as you want. Don't hold yourself back. And so if you want to, creativity, achievement, I want to expand this section so that I can see it bigger. It's just showing me in a really tiny way, and it seems like all of you are really taking advantage of this. I'm so excited. I was a little nervous, to be honest with you. I'm like, no, nobody's responding. I'm an awful presenter. Stability, accountability. See? Look at that. I have this self-doubt. Ay. Why? You know, it doesn't matter what you do in your career. You know what I mean? This confidence can be shaken in like 2 seconds, right? I feel I do this all the time. I speak at Boeing, I speak at Intel, I speak all over the place, and, you know, a webinar shakes me off my ground. Why do we do that? Anyway, that's off the point. So thank you for sharing those with me and being honest. So, you know, I love that, and I hope that maybe you were able to see some things that really maybe surprised you about yourself. So take this next step, and your higher purpose is really informed by your values. And our best work is going to be achieved when we are able to leverage our talents, make meaningful contributions that reflect our true selves. And this is much bigger than a title or a paycheck, which is why it can be difficult to achieve, but it's certainly not impossible. And it's very much quite possible with all of the tools, planning, and self-awareness that we're going to be talking with today, and you being able to do this. Success shouldn't be simply measured by money or position, but by expressing the whole of who we are and living and working in integrity. So if you may be feeling exhausted, overwhelmed, bored, bitter, depressed, frustrated, anxious or lost, it may be that you're working outside of your core values. And now you have a simple exercise that you can do anytime to make sure that you stay in alignment. So if you can't tell already, I care a lot about this. So the first step in owning your career is to know your values, living our values every day. The second lesson we're going to talk about today is from the critical skill, owning feedback and critique. So this is seeking, receiving, and giving criticism. One of the most stressful times of the year for everybody, everyone, and I'm making a general statement because I haven't met anyone yet to date who loves performance reviews. This is one of the most stressful times of the year, is when it's time for performance review. And if you agree with me, you can use the chat function and say yes. And I can definitely attest to pretty much everybody raising their hands in this area. So what I want to talk about today, and I know this is something that Jennifer struggled with as well, because she always felt like she was never getting credit for all of these amazing projects that she was working on and that she had been doing every single month. And in the previous year, during her performance review, she didn't get hardly any credit for any of the work she was doing. And during her performance review, it didn't go as well as she planned, as she was hoping for. And so this was making her extremely unhappy, because she was like, they obviously do not value me at all if they cannot remember the projects that I worked on. And Marina had some amazing advice to share. And, when I'm live doing this presentation, I love to share some clips from the documentary with you. Because of this format and just the technology world of not just GoToWebinar, but almost every other platform out there, showing video in a webinar just is super glitchy, and I experience a lot of tech issues trying to get this up. So I'm going to send these, if anybody's interested. I will send you links to all of the videos. There are 3 that I would share with you. So I will send those to you at the end of today if you're interested. But Marina had some really great advice and insight into what performance reviews, whoop, I must have jumped through a bunch of slides here, so let me go back. That Marina had some insight into what performance reviews are like for managers. And so what she says is, and I'd love if there's any managers here on the line that believe this to chime in the chat function, but managers are busy, and they are so incredibly overwhelmed most of the time. And they hate, I'm using hate, that's a strong word, they highly dislike performance reviews because not only are they doing all of their current work, but now they have to try and remember everything that all of their team members did throughout the year, and they have to give these performance reviews. And they are scrambling you would hope they would be so prepared and they would be very thoughtful and they would, dig deep. And I'm not saying that there are managers that don't do this, but, a lot are just trying to scramble. And so what they pull from in their memory are really only the projects that you may have worked on in the last month or so. And so what we have to do is we have to not take it personally when we don't remember all the amazing things that we did in this last year. Because it's just too hard to, our brains don't work that way when we're underneath that amount of pressure. So what we have to do as an individual, regardless of what level you're at in your career, entry, mid, executive, we have to own our performance review. We have to put it back in our control, because what we typically do is we put it all on them, and then we go in there and we expect them to give us our performance review. But what if we can make it so easy for them to give us credit for absolutely every single piece of project or thing that we've done in our career that we want to get credit for? What if we could get credit for all of that work? What if we could get the recognition that we deserve in a way where we don't have to raise our hand and run around shouting from the rooftops, this is what I did, look at me, like something that may resonate more closely in line with you being, a little, not as aggressive of behavior types. And so I see this skill really relate a lot with women, but there are so many men that don't want to have to do it that way either. They don't want to have to be, sometimes it may come off as arrogant about the work that they do. They want it to show it for themselves. But we still, but if you're not getting credit for your work, you're not doing yourself justice. So the advice Marina had, and I'm going to share it with you all today, is that what we need to do is create a simple working document that you will keep track of all of your accomplishments and projects. So it's just a simple Excel or Word document or whatever you want to do, where you just write down the name of the project, writing down who was on the team. Was it you by yourself or were you working on a team? Make sure that you give credit where credit is due, and just write a quick synopsis of what the project was and what some of the outcomes were. Make sure that you are 100% honest with the outcomes. Make sure you give credit to every person that was a part of the project, and do this every single quarter. So just once a quarter, all you have to do is look back over the last 3 months, because not only is it hard for your manager to remember what you did every year, you probably don't even remember what you've done throughout the year. So what I would love for you to do is to start keeping track of your accomplishments. And some of you may be doing that and never really thought about it being a critical step. And so if you are, I'd love to know that you do something like that. Because a lot of times managers are like, oh yeah, I do that. And these are some of the executives in the room. It's like, okay, well, make sure that we tell other people that they should be doing the same thing. And so I'm sharing that with you. So if doing it once a quarter is not enough, I know Jennifer, when she was taught this skill, she started doing it once a month, because that was just really easy for her. Once a month, at the end of the month, just do a quick wrap-up. These are the projects I worked on. And so prior to your performance review, all you do is you take this document that you've been accumulating and you hand it to your manager. And you say, I just wanted you, this is a document that I've been keeping track of for myself. These are some of the projects I've been working on. I thought you might find it helpful for our performance review. And I will tell you that your manager is going to love you for this, because you just made it so easy for them to remember everything that you've been a part of, and for you to get the recognition that you need. And so once a quarter, I urge you to, do this performance, to take, do this keeping track of your accomplishments and projects. They're going to absolutely appreciate you for doing this, and you're ultimately going to get a better review, because everyone's going to know what you accomplished. And what this is going to do is it's going to lessen the tension for your manager. It's going to make it easier for them, and everyone loves a happy manager, right? So in the beginning of our documentary, I want to share this with you, because it was one of the most profound things that happened during our platform. During this mentorship, was Jennifer in the beginning actually talks about how she had just gone through her performance review a few months earlier, and she had been discussing with her manager prior to that she was going to be up for a promotion. And when she goes into a performance review, she doesn't get the promotion. And she was disappointed, she was upset, and that was a catalyst for her to say, I need help, I need mentorship, because I'm obviously, they don't value me, and I'm not like my colleagues. And so she started going down this downward spiral, and luckily, she sought out and found us, and we were able to do this. But during our documentary, I am not joking, this happened in literally the final month. She goes in to her next performance review. She had been keeping track of her projects, and she ends up getting the promotion that she was promised the year before. Finally, the manager said, "You're right. You are the right person for the team." Because I said, "You know what? I've decided to hire outside of the team." And she's in her head going like, "How is it best for the team for you to hire outside of the team, especially when you promised me this project?" But she's saying this all in her head. And so anyway, she ends up having these conversations, having the confidence to speak up, shows everything that she's been working on, and she ends up getting the promotion. So it was so powerful, and we were able to capture it on film. So don't assume your manager is going to remember. It is up to you to own your performance review. It is not your manager's job. Think about that. So your happiness is going to lie in getting credit for all your work. And so if there are managers on the line right now who agree with me, I'd love to hear that. Like if you're doing something like this, or that you would love to see your, people do this, just give me a yes. Or maybe even if there's anything that you want to add to this, make sure we're going to do, a live section at the end where I'm going to be, doing questions at the end. So I'd love for you to chime in there as well. So there are a lot of other skills that Marina taught Jennifer along the way, like knowing when to speak up and when to listen, what your role is in a conversation and know how to speak up in the boardroom, to knowing how to pick up the pieces when you get overly emotional and passionate in the workplace and you know that you went overboard. How do you pick up the pieces and move forward? Or something like just how to have a difficult conversation with somebody. But one of the biggest mistakes that we make in our career is that we are not supporting each other as much as we should. Who here, agrees with me on that? We can be our very own worst enemy at times. And I know that in the documentary, when Jennifer spoke, she talks a lot about, when she finally got the courage, and this was prior to the Women Evolution mentoring program, prior to that, she had to work up a lot of courage to ask her, one of the only female executives in the entire company, she got the courage to ask us, this senior female leader if she would mentor her. And, what the woman ended up saying to her was really disappointing. She said, "I'm sorry, but I don't mentor people at your pay grade." I mean, oh, what a shot to the heart. Like, it still hurts me to hear that, and it's unfortunate. But, to be honest, she's in a company where there's over 8,000 employees. She's just one person. So I can't fault this executive woman for saying that. She's probably right. She probably can't mentor someone at her pay grade, even though at the time she was making around $100,000, 7 years in her career, obviously just, was almost about to get a promotion. For me, she seems like the perfect person who should get a mentor, but I understand, corporate hierarchy at times. And, really we have to look at, how do we give support? And this is a critical component. And I believe it comes back to when we have confidence in what we want. If we know our values, if we understand our values and we know, that we maybe are not aligned with our values as much as we would like in our projects. If we now have the confidence and we have the skill to be able to go to our manager and say, I really am passionate about these few projects that we've been working on. I would love to work on more things like that. The confidence it takes to say that, for some they come very easy, but for many it does not. And those are some of the things and examples of how we can ask for support. And on the flip side of that, I want us to look at how can we give support to other people. If you see other people who are doing incredible things but never get credit for their work, what can you do to that person to say, hey, you should really make sure people know? I know during the documentary, and this would have been one of the videos that I would have shown you, you see Jennifer say, she works on a huge project that she was involved with, and one of the project leads emails her to say, I just really want to thank you for your participation in this program. You've really contributed a lot. It was really critical. Thank you. And so she emailed back, and typically she would have just emailed back saying, hey, it was my pleasure. But what she decided to do, after recognizing that she has to be in control of her work, she just wrote one extra line at the bottom of that email and said, would you mind letting my boss know? And just push send. Super simple, very subtle. She's not raising her hand. She's not doing anything boastful. She just simply asks for support in a very simple way that was really in alignment with her, what she felt comfortable doing. And immediately she got an email right back saying, absolutely, I would be happy to do it. And so in that simple incident, in that simple response, she stepped up to the next level in her career. She now had the confidence of, well, what else can I do? If it is this simple to get credit for my work, to ask for what I need, what can I do? What else can I do? And that's really ultimately what I'd love for us to do, because I know a lot of us have worked super hard to get to where we are today. And some of us did it on our own without the help of anyone else. And maybe we feel like other people should have to work just as hard. And I will tell you that I know that you are going to make it without anybody's help. I know that you will, but I know that we can get there so much faster if we support each other. It is up to us here today to determine how far and how quickly we move in our career. What I want is for all of us here today to hold each other accountable. If you're anything like me, you're going to leave here and you're going to be totally ready to own your career, and you're going to be so excited, and you're going to get to your desk and you're going to see your to-do list, and there's going to be other projects that you have to focus on. Your manager may throw something else at you, and you're going to have all the best intentions of the planet to do some of these things that we talked about today. But it may end up on your to-do list, and then you get busy, and then your kid gets sick, and then you never end up really getting to it. So I'd love for you, if you know somebody on this webinar, to tell them, how are you going to, what are the 3 things you're going to do right now to start working on in your career? What are the things you're going to do? Write them down. And I want you to share them with somebody else. So if you know someone on this webinar, share it with them. If you don't know anyone on this webinar, share it with somebody else. Tell them today, how are you going to take what you just learned today and implement it within your unique corporate environment? That's what my ask is of you today. So for staying with me as long as you did today, I want to thank you for staying with me. I really appreciate it, all the way to the end. I see that everybody is still here, which to me is the most powerful statement that you were connected to what we talked about today. But I want to share with you those 3 clips of the documentary. So there is going to be a poll that's going to come up right now. That's going to be about, if you want access to those videos, I'd love for you to click yes on that poll. So if you could launch that poll for me, Karen, that would be great. And then we would be able to know. The poll is now open, so you can click yes. 100% say yes. Look at that. That's amazing. Thank you for that. So I will share those 3 videos for you. And then as a bonus, what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw in some other really fun things for you. One is a quiz. There's a quiz that I love that's called, Do You Have Influence in Your Career? Do you have influence? It's a super simple quiz, but it's going to be a way for you to check in with yourself and say, are there other things that I can be doing, that I could maybe impact my career in a different way? And I want to share those with you. So I'm going to send you the 3 videos. I'm going to send you to the quiz so that you can take the quiz for yourself. And I know you're also going to, have access to this slide. But I want to thank you for spending your valuable time with me today. Ultimately it's on you to create change, but you're not alone. And I hope I've given you some new ways of looking how that you can lessen the tension, take ownership of your career, and really find the happiness you deserve. So it's been my pleasure to be with you, and we're going to open it up for Q&A, and I will stay on the line as long as possible.
Thank you, Shavon. Boy, what great information and what really very actionable tasks for us to go and empower ourselves. So much appreciated. I haven't closed this poll yet because we've had 89% have said yes, they want to have those handouts. So I'm just going to close it in just a couple of seconds. So just make sure if you do want those handouts to go and answer that polling question, and that would be great. And then for those of you that need to drop off, I'd just like to remind you that our next webinar is scheduled for Thursday, July 21st, when Michael Cardinal, and Michael is the ITSM Solution Architect with Tech Systems, Mike's going to be joining us, and his presentation is titled Services, Cutting Through the Confusion. And Mike says, services, can they be any more confusing? It's not always clear as to how to define, design, and implement services. And his session seeks to provide simple and straightforward ways to make services work for an organization. Some key takeaways include how to get started defining services, some new ways to internalize the definition of services, and a simplified way to approach the portfolio and catalog, and generally how to make services easier and less confusing. So I hope you can join us for that. Okay, we've got 91% voted, so I'm going to close the poll, and it's still at 100% yes, Shavon. So
that's an A. 91% is an A. I will take it and I will run. So thank you for that. And
that's a great one. And I'm getting a lot of feedback in here about this. Very empowering and motivating presentation. Great presentation. So right now, I'm going to ask my colleague Eric to join us. Eric has wants to speak with our attendees today. And while Eric is chatting with you, if you could please just put in your questions for Shavon, and then when we come back, we will do the Q&A session. Eric, are you with us?
Hi, Karen. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Oh, I'm just fantastic. Thanks for introducing me today.
And how did you like the presentation?
Oh, my goodness. Shavon, you are my long-lost sister. Just like in optimism, in just empowerment, what is the word I'm looking for? The word I'm looking for is courage, and it's awesome. It's just like I want to like bro fist you. I don't know how else to say that. We're gonna have to high five soon because you were just awesome. I loved your presentation. I loved everything that you talked about, and it's just it got me thinking about one of our classes. It's called Organizational Change Management. It's a brand new class. In fact, we're still setting up the next date for it. But it's I love what you've done for the individual, and it just made me think of our class because it's kind of bringing those same principles to your team. So taking that empowerment of the self. And okay, now how do we make our team better, and then how do we make the teams better, and eventually just spread that positivity and joy throughout the entire organization. I loved it, Shavon. I had to say something. I really thank you for being here today with us.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been, it's an honor, and I just realized that now I didn't expand the question bar, and now I'm seeing everything too. And so I see someone say like, I hate them. I never know what to put, for performance review. And this is so great. Do you have any openings? So obviously we have an online mentoring program, and since I'm sure you probably opted in to get the information, I'll share with you more about exactly how that works and how I work with organizations. So I will, you will find out more about that work, and I'm more than happy to spend 30 minutes with anybody over the phone that thinks you would love to have some of these skills kind of throughout an organization or taught or interested anymore. So I'll definitely share that with you. The video links are coming. Thank you. So you mentioned, so there's a question here. So it says, you mentioned there were 6 critical skills. You're right. There are 6, and I shared 3 with you. So the first one was owning your purpose. So that's deciding what you want and why. And I, talked about, one of the components of that skill is knowing what your values are. Like step 1, you got to know what you want. And so the second skill is owning your voice. So that's knowing when to speak up and when to listen. The third skill is owning your emotions. So that's being able to manage sensitivity and reactivity, but also knowing how to pick up the pieces when you do, overreact in the workplace. The fourth skill is owning feedback and critique. So this is, seeking, receiving, and giving criticism. And one of the lessons in that skill is how do you prepare for your performance review, and that is the skill that I taught with you today, because I know, that is such a universal skill, and it's such a powerful and simple way that like, oh, why didn't I think about that? So that's why I wanted to share that with you. So owning feedback and critique is skill number 4. Skill number 5 is owning complicated conversations and relationships. So this is dealing with difficult people. How do you do this? How do you manage the line? How do you have these high-stakes conversations? And how do you negotiate? How do you collaborate successfully? How do you deal with competition? Again, a lot of these skills are things that you're just expected to know, but no one ever really teaches you how. And if you have been taught how, maybe it's in a way that doesn't resonate with your natural leadership capabilities. And to be honest with you, I think that is fundamental to the reason why women haven't advanced as quickly, and why Women Evolution was created, and why I'm so passionate about what I do. Because I want to showcase the other way, that there are other ways to lead that are in alignment with who you are. And I'm not saying that I believe that it'll be 50-50 CEO, female, male. But I believe that 30% of CEOs should be women. I believe that 30% is should be an attainable goal, and so so owning, sorry, I got ahead of myself there a little bit. So the final skill we call owning your evolution, but it's really what that means is, how do we support and champion other people? And I talked, briefly about it today. One of the primary ways of doing that is not holding all of these things that we know about ourselves so close to our chest. And I don't believe people are holding it back because they don't want other people to advance. What I hear mainly from other people is I didn't realize I had so much to give. I didn't realize that I had so much value for other people to learn from. And so that's really how we need to transform this idea of mentorship. Like, mentorship is not, I need a high-level executive. Not that you shouldn't seek that out, because I know that that's critical. And if you are lucky enough to be one of the handful of people who have access to a high-level executive, then, good on you. Take it. Nurture that relationship, be in charge of it, be in charge of scheduling appointments with them, don't let them, you are in charge of that relationship and stay with it as long as you can. But for most of us, until you really prove yourself in your career, it's really, you have to support each other. And so don't underestimate the value of your peers, or maybe someone who's just one level above you. And so I want to, really, I want that to be, built in to our minds that we can mentor one another. So a big part of our online mentoring program is a peer mentorship platform. So we have people go through our programs in peer mentoring groups of 3 or 4, and we have them experience our program together. So not only are they doing and getting online learning, but they are also able to work with peers who can strategize on how you can take this skill and translate it to your everyday life in your unique corporate environment. Because that's really where, I believe online learning has the biggest opportunity to grow. Because I feel like, I know it's way worse than this, but like less than 50% of people complete online learning. And so at Women Evolution, because we roll it out in this peer mentorship platform, we have 100% completion rates with our program now when we roll it out this way. And so it's a super critical way to do it. I just know how powerful it is. So if you want to kind of, I won't say the word steal, but clone this peer mentorship model around any other online training, I am more than happy to share with you this toolkit that I've created with my team over the last several years of research of how to create the most effective peer mentoring program. And you can just kind of plug and play your own curriculum into it if you'd like. I'm more than happy to share that with you if you're interested. But it's so powerful, this idea of peer mentorship, and so it's innovative, it's scalable, it doesn't take any more time from an organization standpoint to implement, and it's super cost effective. And so I've really, I'm having some incredible conversations with some of the coolest companies out there right now because, what they're doing, these programs are phenomenal, but how can we make it better, and how can we get people to progress at a faster pace than we're doing right now? That's my main goal, is getting there faster. I know we're going to get there, but how can we do it so much faster? And so this webinar will be recorded. It has been recorded, and I know you want to share it with other people in your organization. Thank you for doing that. And so, yeah, we're definitely going to do that. Someone said that they had difficulty downloading the PowerPoint. I will email the PowerPoint. I'll email the values exercise. I'll email links to the 3 videos. You're going to get a lot of stuff from me. Maybe I'll space it out over a couple days so that you, it's not overwhelming. Someone made a comment, it appears obvious that only women should be managed companies. It's time to kick out men completely or remove all men from companies, or at least make them clean the bathrooms. That was actually from a man. That was somebody, they're not on the call anymore, but I disagree with that comment. It is all about balanced leadership. We are meant to work in partnership with each other, hands down. So if there are companies that are predominantly women, they need more men. And if it's companies that are predominantly men in these executive roles, we need more women. And so, I'd also love to point out, this is our leadership development program. Primarily women do go through this program. Men absolutely go through it as well. But we really designed it to showcase it from the lens of some of the challenges that women are typically seem to be faced with more. Not that men don't, but we actually just launched last week. Has it been 2 weeks now? It's been 2 weeks. We have a completely separate program curriculum designed around a mentoring program designed for men and women to do in partnership, and it's called Gender Intelligence, and it actually goes through some of the things, some of the first 2 slides I shared with you today, the brain images and the prefrontal cortex. That's a piece of it, so it goes into the neuroscience behind how men and women are different and how it plays out in the workplace today, and what we can do to recognize, value, and leverage the differences between men and women so that we can impact performance and improve engagement. And so it's so cutting edge, it's so innovative. We partnered with the largest education company in the world, Pearson Education, in conjunction with Dr. Barbara Ennis, who is a world leader when it comes to this neurobiology research. And she typically, this conversation of gender intelligence, up until just a few weeks ago, it has been reserved exclusively for high-level executives only, and like a 2-day intensive workshop. But we partnered with Pearson, they partnered with us with our unique mentoring program, and now the gender intelligence, it's called actually Be Gender Intelligent, learning experience in conjunction with our online mentoring program is now completely available for every organization. So it's super exciting stuff. I'm just getting started. And so I want to thank you. It seems like so many people have still stayed on. If there's any other questions, I don't see any more, but I am still staying on. If anybody wants to, continue to chime in, I'm more than happy to share with you everything. It's still 6 a.m. here. Everybody is sound asleep. I'm available.
And you're wide awake, but nobody to talk to after this, right? Until they get up in a few hours.
I hope anyway.
Well, if we have any that come in, like while we just do the close here also, Shavon, what we'll do is we'll add them onto the Q&A that we're going to send over to you, and you can just answer the questions that way as well for people.
Okay. Great.
Okay? But again, thank you so much for today. This has just been so exciting, and I'm surprised we still have people still on here at this point. So thank you all so much for staying with us. And then, once again, I'd just like to remind you that the next webinar is scheduled for Thursday, July 21st, when Michael Cardinal, ITSM Solution Architect with Tech Systems, joins us with Mike's presentation that's titled Services, Cutting Through the Confusion. I think that's going to be pretty significant for you. As he's saying, can the services be any more confusing? It's not always clear as to how to define them, design them, what to be offering, how to implement them. So he's going to have a lot of information for you all around how to make that a much more easier process for you. So I hope that you can join us. And if you could, take a minute to submit the post-webinar survey at the end here as you log out. That's your opportunity to request any webinar topics that you'd like to see presented in the future. And we do appreciate your feedback and anything that we can do to make this process and the webinar a better experience for you. We'd certainly love to have your input on that. So thank you all. You will be receiving an invitation for the next webinar, and we look forward to having you join us. And again, Shavon, thank you so much, and I so appreciate you getting up at 4 o'clock this morning and making sure that everything was all set for a very successful presentation. So thank you so much.
My pleasure.
And thank everybody else for joining us today. Hope you all have a wonderful day. Take care. Bye.